Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into a condition that so many people think of as a life sentence, sleep apnea. But we're going to look at it through a new lens, one that moves past just managing the problem and explores an actual path to healing.
Okay, to really get this, let's start with a little medical mystery. Take a look at this chart. This person's heart rate is just all over the place. You'd probably guess this is someone in the ICU, maybe with a severe infection like sepsis, right? Their body is under extreme stress. But what if I told you this exact thing is happening to millions of people, not in the hospital, but in their own beds every single night?
Because believe it or not, that's what's happening. This isn't sepsis. This is the kind of physical stress someone with obstructive sleep apnea goes through night after night. It's a silent battle. You don't even feel it happening, but it puts an unbelievable amount of strain on your body.
So let's really unpack what's going on during this silent nightly struggle. Because, and this is so important, it is way, way more serious than just snoring.
Now, when we say sleep apnea, what we're really talking about for 90% of people is obstructive sleep apnea. This isn't a case of the brain just forgetting to breathe. No, this is a mechanical problem. It's a physical blockage happening right in your airway.
Just try to picture this for a second. With OSA, your body is fighting to get air in, but the airway itself is physically collapsing, shutting off the flow. And this forces your brain to basically shock you awake, just for a split second, so you don't even know it's happening, just so you can take a breath. And this can happen hundreds of times in a single night. And that nightly struggle, it has some really serious consequences. I mean, the constant drops in oxygen, the flood of stress hormones, it puts your whole body on high alert. And look at these numbers. OSA is a massive factor in some of our most serious chronic diseases. We're talking heart failure, stroke, drug-resistant high blood pressure, even diabetes. It's not just about feeling tired. It's a full-blown systemic health crisis. So if this is so bad for us, you have to ask, has it always been like this? Was this a problem for our ancestors? Well, it might feel like a modern-day issue, but the seeds were actually planted centuries ago, thanks to a huge shift in the way we eat. Just let this quote sink in for a second. 400 years ago, this problem basically didn't exist. Human jaws were wider, our airways were more open. So if our fundamental anatomy isn't the problem, what on earth changed? And the answer is actually pretty simple. Our food. We went from eating tough, fibrous foods that gave our jaws a real workout to soft, processed stuff that you barely have to chew. And that lack of stimulation has literally changed the shape of our faces, leading to weaker, underdeveloped jaws and, you guessed it, smaller airways. And this kicks off a really nasty feedback loop. So you can't breathe through your nose, right? You start breathing through your mouth. But when you do that, your tongue drops from its natural spot on the roof of your mouth. Over time, that leads to physical changes, a narrower jaw, a smaller airway, which makes it even harder to breathe through your nose. It's a vicious cycle that just keeps getting worse. Okay, so if the root of the problem is basically weak muscles and bad habits, could the solution be exercise? Well, this is where this incredible field comes in. It's called orofacial myofunctional therapy, or OMT for short. Think of OMT like physical therapy, but for your mouth, tongue, and throat. It's a series of very specific exercises designed to strengthen the exact muscles that get all weak and floppy and collapse during sleep. It's about fixing the root cause of the obstruction. And you know what? The results are really compelling. Study after study shows that sticking with an OMT program can cut those apnea events by around 50% and seriously reduce snoring. But maybe even more importantly, it makes a huge difference in how awake and rested people feel during the day. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Because we have to look past just the raw numbers, how many times someone stops breathing. We need to ask a much more important question. How does the treatment actually make them feel? What's the impact on their quality of life? So this comparison is absolutely key. Look, a CPAP machine is the gold standard for getting that AHI number way down. It's fantastic at that. But then look at daytime sleepiness. OMT shows a high level of improvement. This means people often feel so much better, so much more rested with OMT, even if the raw number of apnea events is similar to other treatments.
So that brings up a huge question, right? Why? Why does simply strengthening these muscles have such a massive impact on how good you feel? Sometimes even more than a machine that's literally forcing your airway open. Well, the answer is deep in our nervous system.
Those repeated oxygen drops from OSA cause something called neurogenic inflammation. It basically makes the nerves in your airways totally hypersensitive. They're on a hair trigger, waking you up at the slightest little thing. OMT helps to calm all that down. By making the muscles stronger and the airway more stable, it reduces that irritation, and it lets your brain finally sink into that deep, restorative sleep it needs. And all of this is leading us to the future of breathing. We're seeing this therapy team up with modern technology, which is not only making it more effective, but it's even opening up the possibility of preventing the problem in the first place. Now, OMT isn't brand new or anything. The first big studies came out more than a decade ago. But just look at this timeline. The pace of innovation is speeding up like crazy. We've gone from those first studies to now having apps that make people actually stick with the program, and even to this incredible new tech that can monitor you without touching you.
And this is exactly how technology is cracking the biggest challenge OMT has always had, just getting people to do the exercises consistently. Now you have apps that guide you, they track your progress, you have sensors that can check your breathing and even your tongue posture while you're asleep without you wearing a single thing. That's the kind of real-time feedback that keeps people going.
So what we're really talking about here is a total paradigm shift. We are moving away from being dependent on a machine for the rest of our lives, a machine that only manages a symptom, and toward an active therapy that actually retrains the body to work the way it's supposed to. This is a path to real healing.
And that really leaves us with a final, powerful idea to think about. As we look to the future, maybe the ultimate answer to better sleep isn't just about building better machines. Maybe it's about rediscovering and retraining our body's own natural ability to breathe correctly. Thanks for joining me.